you are your biggest hurdle through going through coaching? A lot of it was like, is it okay to post this? Or is it okay to market myself like this? Should I be letting people know what I'm doing? It was just me. Like if I would have posted on LinkedIn a little earlier, if I would have just started making those action steps and stopped thinking about those things and start taking action on those things as well. So putting it on my calendar, making some time and like, yeah, this is a commitment to myself and putting yourself out there and holding yourself really accountable because no matter what, you're going to have to put in the time and energy doing something. So why not doing it, chasing your dreams?
Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of Chingona Revolution podcast. This week, we are chatting with one of my clients. She is a client inside of CDL, which is Courage Driven Latina. And the reason I invited her on is because Yesenia finds herself in this place that's very relatable to a lot of the people that I've been talking to, either new clients or people that I've just been having side conversations. And this is that on paper, they kind of have everything, right? They have a job, they have maybe a partner, they have a place that they love where they live, but it still feels like something is missing. And that one thing that feels like it's missing is more purpose and doing something that's more intentional rather than just settling for what they currently have. They are striving for more, and not from this place of greed, but from this place of wanting to really live their calling and do more with their life. So Yesenia specifically is in the middle of transitioning her career, and she's faced a handful of obstacles, but she is so resilient. And today we have a conversation about her journey, her identity, and just the overall her resiliency throughout her life, but more specifically over the last 4 months, and how she has ended up starting a consulting business, taking on clients, still working a full-time job, and interviewing for a more aligned position so that she can live her ultimate goal of traveling and working remotely. All right, let's get into the interview. Yesenia, welcome to Chingona Revolution podcast. How are you?
Good. I am doing so well. Thank you so much for the invite and having me here. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you as well because I was telling you before we started recording that I think a lot of people resonate with your situation and your story. And that's why I thought it was important to invite you on. So for the people who don't know you, that maybe like aren't in CDL and don't know who you are, can you give us just a quick overview of who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Yesenia Bernal-Alcala, and I live in West Michigan. So I'm a Michigander at home. And so definitely a daughter of a Mexican immigrant. So I'm Mexican American. My mom is American and my dad is Mexican, and oldest of three. And so growing up, it was definitely interesting just being a first gen Mexican American and having to navigate a lot of things here in the States. But me and my family were always been so grateful, and through nonprofit work and through our community, that's how me and my siblings really got through living on the west side in Grand Rapids in Michigan and reaching our dreams. And so I definitely got into nonprofit work, and that's what really fueled me, just being in higher education, going through that process and really not knowing what you don't know. And you talk about those barriers, but you don't really know you're part of those barriers or seeing those barriers until you get out of them. And so that's kind of a background about me. I love traveling. I met my husband, who is now my husband, when I was 15 in Mexico, when I had my quinceañera. And so we did long distance for 6 years. And so I've been traveling back and forth from Mexico to here. And I just love traveling, helping others, and really helping others find their purpose and their passion and taking those steps as well.
So wait, so you're half Mexican?
Yes. So if you like, I'm pale, you can't really tell, but yeah, I'm half Mexican American. And so growing up, that dynamic was also weird for me, my siblings, because we live in America, but our like my dad's family and everything and all our primos, like they're in Mexico, right? So being here, like growing up, my dad didn't teach us Spanish. It wasn't until I met my husband later on in life and going to college that I really learned Spanish. And so it was always that half and half of like, we're not all the way American and we're not like all the way Mexican either. So it has definitely been a dynamic of like navigating all of that.
Yeah, and I bring this up because I was going to ask about just identity in general growing up, and but the fact that you were able to go back to Mexico probably was a great way of reconnecting to that part of your culture. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Michigan or did you grow up elsewhere?
Yeah, so I grew up in Michigan, but every other Christmas, like we would drive, like me and my family, we would drive from Michigan all the way to Tenancingo, Mexico, which is like a 3 day drive for Christmas, like every other year. So that's how the
Wow.
adventureness got installed in me. That's how like the culture, like the music. Growing up, we knew like the basics, like baño, comida, but like to have a conversation with my tias, I couldn't do that growing up.
Wow, that's so beautiful that one, you were able to experience both cultures. I'm sure that many times when you were younger, there was probably some confusion there and just like some identity of like, oh my gosh, I don't feel Mexican enough or I don't feel American enough, which I think most people do. But I think even more for you because one side of your
Hmm.
family had certain customs and then another side had other customs as well. But I think it's really beautiful that you still had a chance to go back to Mexico and that you were like, I'm going to learn Spanish. And then you ended up marrying somebody from Mexico. And I was looking at your Instagram before this and I was like, damn, Yesenia really is an adventurous person. You do travel a lot. And it seems like you and your partner love traveling together, which is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that was our even like theme for our wedding, right? Because we did long distance for 6 years. Like I was in high school, he was in high school, I was in college, he was in college. And so traveling, learning, and when you travel with someone, like that's how you really get to know a person too. So that is very core to who we are and kind of we know that's who we are and we're trying to make that shift to our next phase. And that's kind of why I joined Courage Driven Latina to really think we kind of thought about those things. It's like, okay, how can we make that part of our lifestyle and create a career out of that as well?
Yeah, exactly. So tell us, because people listening, they're like, oh my gosh, it sounds like Yesenia has everything she wants. She has this meaningful work, she has the partner, she has the adventurous part of her. So I think from the outside looking in, it's easy for people to just think you have it all. So can you tell us what in you maybe felt like I think I'm meant for more? When did that happen and how did that happen?
Yeah, I think it was after graduation, right? So you go into college, like people tell you this is like the path that you have to go to, like high school, college, really getting through that path. And I always knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how, right? I knew like the basics of like being a teacher, being a social worker, and I love all of those things. But it was coming to a point where I definitely knew I needed change. And so coming back, like I said, I grew up half and half Mexican American. And after the wedding, my parents also revealed a big secret to me that I didn't know is that my dad is not my biological dad. And so that kind of added this other layer of like, oh, who am I? Am I really who I say I want to be? Do my parents really love me? Those are all just kind of thoughts flowing into my head. And so with that and being post grad and really thinking, what kind of career do I also want to create? That kind of put me at a point where I was like, okay, I definitely need some changes in my life. And how do I really get there?
Wow. I did not expect you to say that. I feel like I was blown away. Yeah, that's so much for you to process. And I mean, it makes sense that they waited a minute to tell you this truth bomb. But even then, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not who I think you said this. I don't know. I'm not going to say it exactly how you said it, but am I who I think I am and who do I want to be? And there's just so much there. The word that keeps coming up for me when I think about your situation is identity. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly figuring out who you are and who you want to become. And so you also said, I knew that I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how. And, we can look at your resume and see that you've helped people for a long time. But what is the goal? Like, what is the thing that you want to do?
Yeah, so I feel like my personal goal is to really show others, especially I feel like Latinas, woman of color, is that you can have any dream and really put your mind to it. Just growing up, like I said, seeing that difference between like being an American and being Mexican, which I love both parts so much, right? And I was like, how can we just make both worlds like collide? And so my dream would just to empower really women to take charge of their lives, whatever they want to be, whatever life that they really want to create and create that life because it is scary. Like you have to be vulnerable, you have to put yourself out there, you have to say yes and no to certain things. And so I just want to show people and give them those knowledge and tools to do that as well. Because you just don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you just don't know how to get there.
Exactly. Yeah. And since I've known you, I feel like another word that comes up when I think about you is resilience. And there's been, life is going to life and obstacles are going to happen. But what we do in response to those matter more than the obstacle itself. And I think I've seen you navigate times that felt really challenging and times where you were like, is this even worth doing? What am I even doing? Or maybe feeling overwhelmed, but you always still showed up. And I just want to highlight some of those things. So one of them was you decided that you wanted to become a consultant and take on
Mm-hmm.
clients. And you have had 3 clients, right?
I mean, I would say officially two. Yeah, definitely.
Wait, why are we not counting one?
The project like didn't just flow into fruition, so I feel like that's why the project wasn't
Yeah,
complete.
but that's on the company you were working with more than on you. Can you tell us where you were when I met you? Because then I want to get into what we were just talking about. So where were you before?
Yeah, so I signed up to this program, I believe like in November, December of 2020. Three. And so I was initially supposed to start then, but then I had some medical things come up, which is all part of the journey. And so they thought I had a heart murmur. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to die. Like, I think I'm dying. I can't be a part of this program. I need to get my life together. And I was like, I need to get my life together to even be a part of this program. And so when you met me, I just realized I didn't have my heart murmur anymore. So that was good. It came out negative. So that was a big relief. But I recently got a concussion from a recent trip that I went to in New York. And so when I came, like physically, emotionally, like I was not that like well of a state. I was like, what am I doing with life? If I am I doing anything right with life? And I had one of like my first like paying consulting like clients, and I was in that way of like, what do I do next? Because I know I love helping people, but this full-time job a isn't paying enough, and B is not going to get me where I want to go. And so I had one client, I had my health things, and then I was still working my full-time job and really just trying to see where I wanted to go. And so that's where I was when I came into the program. I had a concussion. I was like mentally and physically like, what am I doing? Where am I supposed to be at life? And so that's kind of, it was just a perfect time to really sit down, have that clarity of what am I doing? Because I can't keep on doing everything at once, right? I definitely think that concussion was a sign of like to my body and to my life and self is like, okay, really think of where you want to go. And so that's where I was when I came into the program. Just what do I want to do? What is the best step? Can I even do consulting? Am I qualified enough? Should I be still holding on to this full time job? Should I start marketing myself? Should I start promoting what I'm actually doing? So it was a lot of self doubt of should I even be showing up or in different spaces? So anything from like career spaces to entrepreneur spaces to just like life spaces, like taking up space and having my voice heard.
Yeah, definitely. And for the people who are listening and maybe aren't super aware with the program, there's 4 different paths inside of the program. There's the confidence path, there's the career path, the content path, and the entrepreneurial path, the business owner path. And I feel like Yesenia, you've like dabbled into all of them and kind of worked on like mini projects for all of them. So tell me about where you're at right now. So we were already talking about you've had a few clients.
Mm-hmm.
You at the time, I think you were just trying to make your current job work, but now you're at the point where you're like, I'm ready to let this go. And so
Mm-hmm.
what else? What am I missing?
I currently just joined an entrepreneur cohort that I've
I
been wanting to
remember
do. And I
the
applied to that
in-person one.
3 years ago. And for the same job, like I was like, oh, I can't, I'm too busy. I don't have time after work. I'm not going to have time to dedicate. And so I finally, like, I just started my first class session yesterday, last night. And so it was great just to be around with other entrepreneurs, really to get to know what their mindset is and to be a part of that group as well. And I have another job interview tomorrow. So hopefully it all goes well. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I just came back
Yes.
from an ice
And
climbing travel trip.
ice climbing.
Yeah, that's where I was last week. So that's why I wasn't at the call for like the past 2 weeks. I was like, okay. But yeah, I just got back from ice climbing with a BIPOC group. And so it's all about accessibility and with for people of color, like being outdoors, taking up space, learning. So that's just like one cool thing that is just going on and wrapping up.
That is incredible. And I think the coolest thing about you as a person is like one, you're so relatable, and I don't think you realize what a badass you are. Because who has time to work a full-time job, run a business, go ice climbing, look for another job, right? So you can transition from one job to the other. And then eventually your goal is to be able to like travel around, right? So the reason that you want
Hmm.
a new job is to have a flexible job that is remote, that pays you better and allows you to literally like clock out and go ice climbing.
Yes, that is definitely the goal.
And you're making it happen. And I mean, this is exactly why I wanted to have you on, because I think a lot of people are in your situation where you were 4 or 5 months ago when you came back to the program and you were thinking, is it even possible for me to get a different job? Like what you were just like having a hard time picking which direction to go. And I mean, you were just in that place only a few months ago.
Right.
So what would you say to somebody who was in that situation, who is in that situation that you were just in?
I think the biggest thing that I realized throughout that whole process is that you're your biggest hurdle through going through coaching. A lot of it was like, is it okay to post this? Or is it okay to market myself like this? Should I be letting people know what I'm doing? It was just me. Like, if I would have posted on LinkedIn a little earlier, if I would have just started making those action steps and stopped thinking about those things and start taking action on those things as well. So, putting it on my calendar, making some time, and like, yeah, this is a commitment to myself and getting putting yourself out there and holding yourself really accountable because no matter what, you're going to have to put in the time and energy doing something. So why not doing it, chasing your dreams?
The doors for Courage Driven Latina are now open and they close on March 13th. So if you've been wanting to pivot and live your calling, this program is for you. Courage Driven Latina is a 12-month group coaching program that was created to help you make massive change in less than 90 days. And you'll do it surrounded by other ambitious women who are also leading with courage. This is for you if you're ready to execute on that thing that's been pulling on your heart, whether it's starting a business, creating content, pivoting within your career, or working on your confidence. You either have too many ideas and you can't pick one, or you don't know where to start, or maybe you've started, but you have a hard time staying consistent. Or maybe your self doubt is your biggest critic and it's paralyzing. Courage Driven Latina is the solution to all of these obstacles. I've coached over 250 women in this program. I have a proven process to help you go from where you are now to a fully executed project. Your life will look completely different in 90 days. Inside of Courage Driven Latina, you get 12 months access. That's a year. You get an entire year access of weekly live coaching calls. You also get monthly business and career calls, as well as access to the Courage Driven Latina step by step course. There's also group chat support, bonus workshops, and a community of amazing women that will inspire you every single day. There is no better time than right now. Doors close on March 13th, so be sure to secure your spot by going to couragedrivenlatina.com. And if you'd like, you can schedule a sales call with me. Just go to couragedrivenlatina.com and schedule your consult call there. I can't wait to support you in living your purpose. Totally. So I love that response. I'm looking at your entry survey and I feel like I'm talking to a completely different person. So in your entry survey, you said, so the question was, have you tried to like work on this project on your own, or have you tried to reach your goals on your own? And if so, where did you get stuck? And you said, my scarcity and self-sabotaging mindset, as well as my habits, I really want to be able to transition to an abundance and focused mindset. I really just want to take control of my life.
Wow.
Do you feel like you've taken control of your life? I feel like you're just such a different person.
I feel like I'm still working on some of those mindsets, scarcity. Like every day, I definitely have to wake up and like do affirmations and tell myself like there's enough abundance and money and everything for everyone. And so, yeah, I definitely feel like a different person, but still am still working through those limiting beliefs, right? Like it's not like one day or 4 months later you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to have any more limiting beliefs. I'm not going to have any self doubts, but just always being aware of that and making that attention every day to kind of work through that as well.
Yes. And I think people have this belief that the moment they figure out what they're doing, they're just not going to feel any doubt anymore. And I think people think that even about me. But I'm glad you said that because you said, I still have them, but I do this, this, and that. And I think the difference now is that you have tools and resources and the awareness to get yourself out of that self doubt cycle instead of staying stuck in it. While maybe in the past, when you didn't have access to that, which goes back to what you were saying earlier, we don't know what we don't know. And that's why it's
Mm-hmm.
so important to be able to share resources with people. But now you're not stuck there. You're able to get yourself out.
Yeah, and that's something that like I would be stuck and think honestly like it's the end of the world. Like I'm gonna die. Like I don't have any choice. Like I don't know what I'm going to do. But then like you said, working through that and letting myself like what choice do I have in responding to whatever is coming my way whenever life happens, but what choice am I actively making today to make those changes? Because if not, tomorrow's gonna be the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Right.
I'm curious of the months that you've been in the program, well, since you came back, was there a specific maybe tool or like aha moment that you've had that has helped you through this journey? Because it's still uncertain, right? We still don't know what's going to happen with your job interview tomorrow. We still don't know what's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen 5 years from now. Like we never really know. But in when you join the program, I think there was this fear of uncertainty, not just with you, with anybody, right? As human beings, we want certainty, but
Mm-hmm.
certainty isn't certain because anything can actually happen. So I'm curious, is there something maybe like an aha moment or a tool or a video or something that has helped you navigate wanting certainty?
So I would say my aha moment was about 3 weeks ago, and you gave the example of like I have a job, right? And there's some people that don't have a job. There's some people that I married and some people are not married. And there's some people that are in relationships and like they wish that they were single. And so I kind of that's was my aha moment, just realizing that I am a person that is always going to want more. And I could then see my pattern within myself of like, oh yeah, Yesenia, like you are never you always want something that you don't have, or you always want something that is you shouldn't even be focusing on that right now, or always comparing myself to what is this person doing? Should I be more ahead of my career? Should I be marketing myself more? Should I be doing this less? Should I be showing up more like this? And that was just my aha moment to realize like, yes, I know you have everything that you need and you should be happy for what you have right now at this moment. Cause I feel like because I am like the first of my family to go to college, I was always like, what's next? What's next? How can I do the next thing? And never really being present in the moment. And so that was just my aha moment of like taking myself back, like, hey, Yesenia, you are where you dreamt you were gonna be. And so you got yourself here and you will get yourself to the next space and letting that know because as right now, right, there's so many things going out in that side world, but knowing you can only really take care of yourself, take care of who you are on the day to day. And that's all you can really do because your dreams are only meant for you. Like, even if I had $1 million, Erica, if you had $1 million, like, you would be doing another thing, right? Like, you would be fulfilling other dreams. And so, letting myself know, like, yeah, your learning is always going to be, you're always going to have to learn. There's never going to be something that you know all of. You're always going to have to keep on pushing yourself. And there's going to be days where you wish you had something else or something that everyone else wanted, but that's not for you. You want what you have. And so, you really just need to stick to that as well.
Oh, I love that you brought it back to that because you're and I'm glad that that resonated with you because it's true. We all feel at some level like we're behind. And
Mm-hmm.
we fixate on the area of our life that we want to improve, right? So I think in your case it's going to be career and finances and flexibility, right? Like a career
Mm-hmm.
that allows you to have more flexibility and that gives you more money. Obviously that's something I have because I'm running my own business. But you are married and you have a partner, and I have a lot of friends who are like, damn, I just need my soulmate. And I think the interesting thing, not just you, any human being, we're
Mm-hmm.
telling ourselves, oh, once I have that one thing, then everything's going to be fine. But once we have that one thing, there's, to your point, if I had a $1 million business that made $1 million yearly, I'd have other goals I'd be striving for as well. It's not like we get there and we're just done. So in other words, we're constantly striving for this thing, thinking that when we get there, we're just going to be complete, but we're never actually done.
Right. And so kind of just realizing that and like I still have like 60, 70, 80, like 100 more years to go, hopefully, right? And so kind of really looking at that and like, okay, this is like an everyday thing. Like you're always going to want more things. You're always going to like want to go for all these goals, but also what mindset, what habits do you need to have to be able to like sustain that? Because the mindset that I had before, I was just, I don't even know how I talk to myself, but just so disrespectfully sometimes, honestly. And I'm just like, now I know I can't talk to myself like that. Like, that's not going to get me where I need to go. That's not going to motivate me. I can't talk to myself like that for 40 years and think I'm going to retire happily. And so it's kind of like
Definitely.
looking at like that hard mirror and like, okay, I need to definitely change something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such a powerful realization. You've had so many wins since joining the program, from the entrepreneurship program. You also, I'm like looking at your wins over here. You extended one of your client contracts. You also got a business mentor. You also were building community with the Latina Network of West Michigan. When I'm like reading these wins, I think what keeps coming to mind for you is I see you as a community leader. I don't know how it's going to play out. Maybe this ends up being like through a nonprofit at some point, but I totally see you being, you're meant to be an entrepreneur. You already are with your consulting business, but I can see you doing something like that in the future. I'm excited for you. I feel like you're at the moment when a lot of change is about to happen. And I think what happens before a lot of change happens, we go through a period of darkness, and it's almost like, is nothing going to work out? And now you've been going to job interviews, like things are moving for you. And I think because you've been showing up, I can just see this all play out for you. And I'm just so excited that you're still in the program for like, what, another 5 months or so?
Yes.
Yeah, another 5 months. So like but the reason I wanted to have you on was because of your resiliency. And just so many people, I think, resonate to your job situation, where they are in a job where they feel really unfulfilled and they're ready to like pivot to purpose and to do something more meaningful. And you've embodied that, and you've started making it more meaningful, even with taking on clients on the side, even with joining this entrepreneurship program, joining Courage Driven Latina, and working on yourself. And all of that has allowed you to feel more purposeful, even if you're not at your end goal just yet. Because like we just said, when you get to the end goal, there's going to be more to strive for.
Mm-hmm.
So I have another question for you. What would you say to somebody who's considering joining Courage Driven Latina, but maybe they are wondering if it's going to work for them? Maybe they're like, it's working for Yesenia and it's worked for these other women that I've heard on the podcast, but I don't know if it's going to work for me. Did you
I
have that thought before you joined?
Yeah, like I did, right? Because it is like an investment and then also you just want it to all work out. You just think like, "Oh, if I just join this program, will this magically wave my wand and help me get rid of all my problems?" And so that's where the program is for you if you're willing to put in the work. Like if you're willing to show up, if you're willing to watch the videos, if you're willing to really challenge yourself and like go against your own beliefs, right? Because your mind right now is telling you, like, it's not going to work out. I don't think you should invest in that. I don't think it's going to get a return. Then, if that's the energy you're going in with, then that's probably what you're going to get out of it, honestly. But if you're going in with, like, I made this investment, I'm showing up for myself, I'm going to be watching all the videos, I'm going to be implementing all the techniques, all the coaching, all the self coaching techniques, all the meditations, like, then you will get what you put into it. But it is like constant work of showing up, of like, oh, Erica's gonna give you some coaching and you have to like take the notes, sit with it, sit with those feelings. A lot of feelings, a lot of memories might come up and you're like, I don't want to deal with this. This is a kind of time to deal with it and deal with it in community, deal with it hearing what other people are going through, because sometimes you think you're by yourself, you're going through this thing all by yourself and you're not. It's honestly been the community. You're like, okay, Yesenia, you're not delusional. Like the world is a little crazy today, or the job market is hard, or building a business is hard, posting content is hard, doing things that are out of your comfort zone. So are hard. All those things are hard, but being a part of a community makes it so much more better, and it holds you accountable. Like, hey, how is kickboxing go? Did you set up that LLC? Like, how did that job application go? How is that all going? And you're all with a community of people who get it. They're not going to question you. We're all trying to empower each other and really lift each other up, because like it is hard out here sometimes, just even like working a full-time job and trying to live life.
Yeah, it really is. I love your response. It's a very honest, authentic response that I think holds a lot of truth. Is there anything that I didn't ask you? I know this was just like more conversational, and I swear,
Mhm.
props to you and every other client that's been on here, because you're like, "What questions are you going to ask?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We're going to figure it out when I get there."
No, you're amazing
So
to even like be able to do this on the fly too. Like you don't even need any questions.
you know what it is? Your responses give me ideas for the next question. That's what it is. And I really like this to feel more conversational rather than highly curated. And especially, I think it's easy because I know you all, because I'm with you every week and coaching you every week. But is there anything that you feel on your heart that you want to share? Like either a message for people or anything that maybe I didn't ask you that you're like, oh, I'd love to say this on this platform?
Mhm. Sometimes I feel like we feel alone, or we're comparing ourselves, or we're thinking we're not doing enough. And those thoughts or those feelings sometimes might not go away. And so I really just want others, if you're thinking about those things or if you're having those hard feelings, being honest with yourself, but also creating some time and space to explore how are you going to get through those feelings and taking kind of responsibility of that. I feel like growing up, I went through a lot of trauma and try to like blame it on my family or blame it on society. And it's not going to work, right? Because those people are like, they did those things, they left those problems, but it's really on you to really dive through those things and really heal yourself, heal others, because that's kind of your responsibility. Like no one is going to come, like your job is not going to come be like, you're an amazing person, here's more money. Or your parents are not going to come and be like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry for all these things. Like, or your spouse is not going to come like, I know you, I see you, you work so hard, or you work yourself so hard to nothing where you're like, yeah, I can't even take care of myself. Making sure that I don't care if you have lots of things going on, if you have little things going on, just making sure you're always prioritizing that, because it can get like just lost in the weeds with like everyday life and things going on and social media and everyone comparing each other. So definitely making sure you're creating time and space to take care of yourself, to work on your goals, even if it's like 5 to 10 minutes, because I know how life is and it feels like it can go so fast, but making sure you are making those that time and space as well.
I love that, especially the part of like, your boss isn't going to come up to you and be like, you deserve more money. Or your parents are going to be like, I'm sorry for all the pain I caused you. And
Yeah.
yeah, we really, I think at the core, what you're saying is like, you have to have your own back because you're the only person who really knows what you're even going through.
Yeah, and on the journey, like people will give you their 2 cents, and sometimes things that they don't have experience on, or it's sometimes on life that you don't want, and that's totally fine as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. So, if people want to hire you as a consultant, I know you mainly work with nonprofits and you've been helping them with marketing and different things like that. So, where can people contact you and find you?
Yes, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Yesenia Bernal-Alcala, and I know that Erica and her team will put it on the show notes. And then I
Beautiful.
am taking a little mini break from Instagram, but you can also find me there, Yesenia Bernal 37, and I would love to connect.
All right. And if anybody has, if your company is hiring for remote positions, hit up Yesenia for that too.
Yes, I love all remote job opportunities, definitely around program coordination for meaningful community transformation too.
Perfect. And I mean, hey, maybe you won't even need it. Maybe your interview tomorrow is the next job. So
Hopefully.
amazing. Yesenia, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your story, especially at the beginning. That I learned things about you that I didn't know. So yeah, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story with us and also sharing your wisdom.
No, thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it. And thank you for so much for everything that you do and empowering all the amazing like Latinas to come.
I appreciate it. All right. I will see you on our call on Tuesday.
All right, see you then.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.